بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Very nice to see you guys here. Thank you for coming for our sixth session. And I'm super excited. You know why I'm excited? Why do you guys think I may be excited? Because we're not talking about habits today. We've talked about habits for the last 5 weeks. And we thought initially it's going to take one session, but it was prolonged. And today what we're going to talk about is willpower, as per the message that went out in the group. I'm actually not on WhatsApp, so I don't know what goes out and what doesn't, but hopefully it went out and you guys know that we're going to talk about willpower today. So welcome to the mentorship program, and this is phase 2. By way of reminder, phase 1 was the introduction course, and we covered the 7 segments of basically what we believe every Muslim, whether young or old, should have in terms of their approach to Islam, to understand Islam in a purely Canadian context, yet still fundamentally grounded in our tradition. These are the 7 aspects that we talk about. So Iqra, Qiyam, service, Jihad, Tawheed, purification, and following the Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the beloved, peace be upon him. So we're not going to go through that. That's what we covered last time, and it took us about 6 months to go through the introductory course. This session is part of the optimized practice module, which is basically obsessed of taking people from theory to practice. And the last phase of this program is going to be the more hands-on implementation piece. So this practical component consists of 5 segments. Basically, we're still in the productivity session or productivity module. And then after that, we'll be talking about service. And this somewhat aligns with the introductory course, if you guys can make the parallels. Then we'll talk about physical wellness, internal wellness as well, and inner peace, as well as service. And by way of recap, maybe we can, Ali, if I can get you the lights to turn off in the front, just so people can see the slides better. By way of recap, we talked about habits in the first 5 sessions, and basically Allah loving what is done consistently. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has love. He does have love for certain people and certain actions. And what makes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala happy is seeing their abd, their servant, male or female, doing things consistently, even if they're small. And we talked about the who do you need to be? If you want to start a habit, instead of talking about the what, starting with who. Who is it that you think you can be? And that drives the what, and the what then drives the how. And we talked about 3 tools: Whoop, ABCs, and AARs. And I'm going to put you guys on the spot, and I know nobody's going to answer, and that's completely fine. We're going to have fun, inshallah, try to quiz ourselves. This active recall is how things go in our brain, where you kind of say, yeah, I think I saw this last week, and I remember we talked about it, and maybe we had a discussion, but I can't remember what it stands for. And you scratch your head, and you think, and you think, and you think, and sometimes you could get it, and sometimes you don't. But this actual process is how you learn and how you attain mastery of the knowledge itself. So Whoop, we talked about Whoop last time. Anybody in the audience, Assalamu alaikum, remembers what Whoop stands for? Oh, we have a hand up. That's impressive. Yes, ma'am. Nice, nice. The order of the 2 are actually flipped. So it's wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. Thank you very much for sharing that. Remind me your name again. Halima. Halima. Ahlan wa sahlan, Halima. If I had a chocolate, I'd give it to you as a prize. Actually, maybe not a chocolate, a broccoli, because we want to make sure we stay healthy. Just a joke, of course. So wish, obstacle, or wish, outcome, obstacle, plan. And basically what we talked about there is when you want to try and achieve anything in life, have that wish. Write it down, or think about it, or journal on it, or perhaps reflect on what is it that you want to do. And then right away talk about the outcome. What is the benefit of doing that thing? I want to learn the Quran. I want to learn how to ride a bike. I want to be able to take care of myself physically. Okay, that's the wish. What's the outcome? I'm going to feel great. I'm going to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I could perhaps lead my family in prayer, because right now they don't have anybody to lead them in prayer. So those are the outcomes. And then what is the obstacle? You know there's something that's going to hit you in the face. You're going to say, I'm going to memorize the Quran, and then a problem happens. What's the problem? Life. Kids kind of make you pull your hair out, or work gets really busy, or you just don't feel like it, or maybe your willpower is drained. So that is what the obstacle is, and you know about the obstacle before it even happens. And then you put the plan already again before it happens. So when the problem happens, you're just in execution mode. You're not trying to come up with a plan on the fly. The plan is already predetermined. Excellent. And then we talked about ABCs. Does anybody remember what ABCs stand for? And I know this is hard because we talked about it only once. And ABCs in terms of installing habits is anchor, behavior, celebration, ABC. So we talked about, we talked about how when you want to install a habit, look for an anchor. Look for something that you perhaps do already every single day, and then attach to it this new behavior that you want to add. So that would be the anchor. And the behavior, we talked about how when you want to do anything, you break it down. Break it down. No matter how amazing you want to do, what you want to do in the future, that's khair. But break it down, because the shaitan's going to tell you, yeah, you can go and memorize 6 pages every single day for the rest of your life. And maybe when you're feeling on top of the world, you'll do that. But then again, life hits you in the face, day 2, day 3, day 5, you're unlikely to consistently do that. So take that behavior and break it down. And the last thing stands for celebration. My most difficult piece, personally, I have a hard time, celebrating. Because subhanAllah, I come from a culture where it wasn't maybe encouraged, or maybe it's downplayed, or it's something that we don't get a lot of training on. However, there's a lot of studies that show the more you feel good about doing an action, the more you're likely to repeat the action. And this is actually why we get addicted to so many things. You know, the Facebooks for us old people, for the young people, it's TikTok and whatever else you guys are using. Well, there's a dopamine effect. You open up your phone, you scroll, you see a funny cat video, and that gives you a little boost of dopamine or whatever you happen to be watching. And then you scroll away, and then you see another one, scroll away, see another one. Gives you these small bits of dopamine, actually a good feeling. And that's why we're so addicted to our phones, because they've been engineered. Like, remember, when you're using TikTok and Facebook and so on, it's all free, right? It's not free. It's actually quite expensive. And the product is, guess what? You are the product. Your attention is the product. They're trying to hook you up, and it's genius, actually. It's not really hidden. It's not a conspiracy. What they're trying to do is increase their ad revenue. To increase their ad revenue, they got to make sure you use the app. To make sure that you use the app for hours and hours and hours, they have to give you that little pleasure bits every single while. Maybe when you hit a like, or you get a like and you feel, oh, that's amazing, I put a post and people are cheering me on. That's a little bit of dopamine. Fine, understand what's happening. That attention economics tells you that, okay, I can counteract that if I need to, but that's what's happening in the background. So it takes us full circle back to the need to celebrate. The need to celebrate is important. That's how our brains work. And finding a way to feel happy after doing what you did is super important. As opposed to say, you know, I got up, I made wudu, I prayed Fajr on time. I don't need to celebrate that because that's the expectation. No. Yes, of course it's the expectation. Of course that's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants you to do. But He subhanahu wa ta'ala is celebrating you. He subhanahu wa ta'ala is celebrating you. What do you mean He's celebrating me? Because He's giving you a whole bunch of ajr if you do it with the right intention right after you finish. Once you finish the act of devotion, what are you expecting if Allah accepts it? A whole bunch of good deeds. That's how He celebrates you. But I'm not celebrating myself when I do it, because I should be praying. I should be reciting the Quran. I should be X, Y, and Z. Stop shooting yourself and actually take a moment and say, Alhamdulillah that He allowed me to do this work, and He will reward me for it. And that's what I'm celebrating. I'm celebrating the barakah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me. Because how many people How many people on the face of this planet will never have that opportunity to get up in the morning, make wudu, and pray? Pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We kind of know how many people because it's the majority of human beings. Humanity, unfortunately, is not paying attention to that which will save them. So if you happen to be the one, celebrate that. In, again, not a narcissistic way, check me out, I'm amazing, but between you and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. طيب, AARs. Anybody remember what those are? I know that's hard. I'll pick on Noor, but no, she came late. I usually get people to do push-ups, but I won't ask her to do push-ups. Just kidding. AARs, After Action Report. The acronym doesn't mean anything. It's not important. But what you do is important. And what AAR is, what it should remind you of, is when you do something, good or bad, irrespective, you ask yourself 3 questions. Okay, what worked well? So you came here and attended a session and then left. As you're driving home, you ask yourself, what went well today? For example. So you came. That went well. Actually went well. Why? Because you could have been any different place right now, but you chose to be in the house of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That went well. Okay, what needs work? Well, maybe I came here and I was distracted. I was on my phone. I was talking to friends. I was daydreaming. I was thinking about my problems at home. Okay, in a loving, gentle way, ask yourself, that needs work. Okay, because the intent, I wanted to come here and learn something, but I came here and got distracted. See, what the shaitan is trying to make you do is say, see, do we have little kids here? You suck, you're bad, you're awful. You can't have khushu' on anything that you do. You wasted your time. Negative, 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 negative. That's what the shaitan's message is to you. Not you because you're Muslim, you because you're a human, and he hates every single human. How do we know this? He said that in the Quran. He said, I'm going to come after you and make sure I destroy you as much as I can. So that negative talk is, we have it, and non-Muslims have it, white people have it, Africans have it, Pakistanis have it. It's weird. It's not connected to culture. It's not connected to which part of the world you happen to grow up in. It's connected to the fact that we're all human beings and we all have that negative thought. And you just ask yourself, have you ever experienced the voice in your mind that sounds like you? It sounds like you. And it's telling you awful things about yourself. Awful. You're bad. You don't know how to do anything. You're not worth it. You're not worthy. You're not lovable. People will make fun of you. You're bad. That language, like, put your hand up if you've never experienced that. And I'm not going to put my hand up because I experience it every day. That is the shaitan. It's trying to I think it's the shaitan or the nafs or both. It's trying to pull you down. So the after action reports are trying to stop that. Stop that by simply saying, when you do something, what went well, what needs work, what will I do differently? Simple, 3 questions. What went well, what needs work, and what will I do differently? As you install the habits, this is a way by which you can always recalibrate. Any questions before we move on to willpower? Okay, let's talk about willpower. And forgive me, I put a picture of chocolate because I think we all love it. And again, it's not meant to upset anybody, please. It's just meant to say that it's very addictive to even the strongest of us. And whether you're a child or you're an adult or what have you, it's always tempting because, again, that celebration, that sugar when it hits us, gives us that big boost of happiness. And it's funny, I was driving Sunday. I was driving to the airport, Toronto, and we passed by, I'm not going to say who the store is, all the power to them, God bless them. They had a picture of like a sweet, I'm not going to give it up, but a sweet, and then they said, come taste a little bit of, or a bit of happiness or something like that. And the picture looked so amazing, so wonderfully amazing. but you know it's just going to hit you right here, clog the artery, and Allahu Alam if you're going to be in the hospital or not. But why does that work? Because we have a tendency to love these small happiness things that usually come from what we consume. طيب. Let's talk about willpower. Willpower, who wants to, actually, let me go back. Who wants to tell me what willpower is? What does it mean to you? Again, not looking for the textbook answer. What does willpower mean to you? Hamad. Okay, the power to do something. Excellent. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Okay. Is that when you're exercising willpower, or is that how you define willpower itself as a definition? Okay, so the force that gets you to do that, which you think you know you need to do, but you don't want to do. Is this what I'm hearing you? Yep, 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 yep. Okay, perfect, excellent. Alia. Mm-hmm. Beautiful, very well said. Thank you. How much charge I have, maybe how much energy are you saying, or how much? Nice, you saw my slide. Excellent, Alia. MashaAllah, excellent. Tfaddal. Ahmed. Beautiful, love it. Sarah. Beautiful, excellent. Yes, I don't know your name, sir. Waleed, ahlan wa sahlan. The power. Nice. Amazing, amazing. Very good job, mashallah. Thank you, Waleed Nauman. The ability not to eat the cookie or the marshmallow, because actually there was a marshmallow test. Very well said. Anybody else? I think I saw a hand. Abdullah. Being able to control your decisions. Okay. Yes, Sarah. Okay. Not allow distractions to pull you away from your objectives. Very well said. Dr. Shamnam. And the time of prayer comes. Yep. Absolutely. So you physically are unable or think you're unable to do something because of a whole bunch of reasons, but you fight through that and do it anyway because it's important to you. That's very well said. Excellent. Jazakumullah khair. Khalid, last but not least. Naam. But what is willpower to you there in that process? All of it from start to finish. Naam. 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 Excellent. I think everybody here got it from a different vantage point, and it's all right. And we're going to dig into it in more detail today. But basically, the willpower is control. It's control to exert to do something or restrain yourself from doing something. So typically what you do is the control internal power to do something or to resist doing something. And that resistance is what we call against impulses or negative things. So a simple example, I'm going to study, and I sit down and study, and I put my phone right next to myself, and I sit there and start doing my thing. The phone buzzes, and then your brain is saying, oh, I got to get up, I got to pick it up. But your other side of the brain is saying, no, you're studying, but I want to. No, you're studying, but I want to. dance that happens is basically you using willpower from your body, from your mind, from your soul to resist picking up that phone. Now, there are a whole bunch of tools that we're going to talk about right now. One of the simplest ways to win that argument or win that scenario is never to use willpower to begin with. And that's what we're going to talk about, inshallah, today. So who would you be if you are the type of person that you would do what you wanted to do, whether you felt like it or not? Contemplate on that. You do what you need to do, whether you feel like it or not. See, most of us, the way we operate, myself included, is we want to do things that we want to do. There are certain things that we have to do. I'm just going to quote it as such. We have to do something, and we don't want to do it. So what happens when that situation arises? Those, by our definition, society's definition, that have high willpower would do it anyway. Whether they feel like it, they don't feel like it. It's Ramadan. I get up Ramadan in the morning. I miss suhoor. My mouth is dry. And then I have a decision to make. You say, no, there is no decision to make because of course you're going to fast. I challenge you and I say, no, of course you're going to fast is, many people would say no. Now, the majority of human beings don't fast in Ramadan. So they'd get up and say, Ramadan or no Ramadan, give me the coffee and give me the water. But you don't do that, or inshallah you don't do that. You're going to get up and you're going to fast regardless. You already do this. You already do certain things, whether you feel like it or not, you do that. Now the question is, how much of your life operates this way? If all your life operates this way, you're going to be Superman. And you're going to be an angel, and the angels are going to come. You're going to see them in the street, and they're going to shake your hands like Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam told us would happen. So perfection doesn't exist. But what we're trying to do is to move closer to being in charge of ourselves. I don't feel like going to the masjid today and giving a talk because I have so much work to catch up on. It doesn't matter. You're going to go anyway. It's snowing outside. It doesn't matter. I'm going to the masjid. But you know, I really didn't have time to relax today, and there's a movie on. It doesn't matter. I'm going to go do what I need to go and do. And that is what makes you a person of willpower. The tactics that we're going to show you is how to ensure you become more like this person. But remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Can I become better today than I was yesterday? And if you can consistently do that, then the ayah in Surah Al-Mulk, the first ayah, and we have a lot of people who memorize Quran today, so I'm going to pick on Hamza. And what is the first ayah of Surah Al-Mulk? Keep going. Keep going. And we used it before here, and I always say, what is ahsanu amala? He who created death and life to test you, who amongst you can be better? Not the best, better. طيب. So al-azima is what it's called in Arabic. Willpower is what we call it in English. And what scientists actually call it is the master aptitude, the queen of all virtues. And what do I mean by scientists, psychologists, and so on and so forth? We're going to actually see some of the experiments that they run. They try to measure these things. SubhanAllah, it's fascinating. You think willpower, I either have it or don't have it. No, that's not how scientists approach it. They want to measure it and see, well, how much does Sarah have versus Khalid? How are we going to do that? How are we going to test that? What kind of experiments do we need to put Sarah and Khalid and Ahmed and Sarah in the same room and see how they respond? So we'll talk about that, inshallah, in a second. But basically, what willpower is, it's both huge and it's finite. And this is what Alia was talking about, this phone charger. And basically what scientists tell us, there's a debate amongst scientists in terms of willpower. Is it something that you're ordained with? Can it increase? Or do you get the same stock every day and it's just depleted over time? So one theory says that we all have the same amount of willpower, relatively speaking, in the morning. And then every time you take a decision, you use a bit of willpower and use it and use it and use it and use it and use it. And then you're drained at the end of the day or whenever you've used it all, and you're back to zero. Ask yourself this question. When do you usually take the not so great decisions in your day? In the morning or in the afternoon or at night? Just ask yourself that question. It's rhetorical. I know about myself is if I said I'm not going to do something and I need to fight myself, I'm 190% sure I'm not going to do it in the morning. I get up in the morning, I'm fresh, my brain is clean, I get up really early, I sleep really early. Yes, Sheikh Adnan makes fun of me every time because I don't want to meet with the board so late at night because that's what I do. I get up in the morning, indestructible, untouchable. If I said I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Fast forward to after the halaqah tonight, when I get home at 8:30, oh my God, Allahu A'lam. When I know I shouldn't be doing certain things, I'm most likely to do them because I have no willpower left. It's not because I'm better in the morning than at night. It's not I'm a different person in the morning than I am at night. It's simply because of this. It's being used up. And if it happened to have been used up by 12 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when the bad decisions are going to start happening. So it's a question of let me be smart with where I use it is one option. The other option is let me make sure I have a really big battery so it lasts me a longer time. Or you know how some people get their iPhones and put 2 batteries in one, or there's a case with a battery in it? That's the other approach. It is absolutely huge because willpower controls your life. You know how we talked about habits for 5 sessions? We're not going to talk about willpower for 5 sessions, I can guarantee you that. But if you had willpower, you can install or remove any habit just like that. If you had an infinite amount of willpower. Because who drives the show? Your brain tells you, I cannot be doing this action, whatever that action is. If it's doing things you shouldn't be doing, saying things you shouldn't be saying, responding in ways that are not more optimized, khalas, it doesn't matter because your brain steps in and says, I'm not going to do that. So you can install or remove any habit you want. That's why willpower is important. But unfortunately, willpower is not infinite. It's not infinite. It is finite. It's basically how your brain is programmed to operate. And the more you can operate on autopilot, the less and less you need to use willpower. That's why most of us, especially those who have fasted Ramadan for many, many times, don't spend a lot of time on or a lot of willpower on a Ramadan morning. They don't. They get up. I had suhoor, I didn't have suhoor. It makes zero difference. I'm fasting today because it's Ramadan, period. No willpower is used. However, imagine you're fasting on a Monday or a Thursday. Imagine on a Monday or a Thursday you get up and you say it's voluntary fast. And then you go to work and or you go visit your mom and unknowing to you, she has a whole feast prepared for you. And you come in and you're like, Mama, I'm fasting. And she goes, look at what I did for you. And then do whatever you want, my son. It's okay, I won't get upset, but I'd love for you to eat. And then now you're testing yourself. Am I going to break it? Am I not? Am I going to break it? Am I not? Because you can. You have that room to negotiate with yourself. Willpower, deplete, 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 deplete very quickly. So the more you can run on autopilot, the easier life will be. So let's talk about an explanation very quickly of what willpower is. According to Roy Baumeister, he actually wrote the book on willpower. And then we're going to run through the tests that they use to measure your willpower, basically. So let's play that.
Learning in their assignments on time and wearing clean but the results were absolutely the opposite. Indeed, the psychologist jokingly said, apparently the students could either get their homework done or change their socks every day, but not both. There was another experiment that took place in Baumeister's lab, where hungry students walked in, and some of them were allowed to eat freshly baked cookies, but others were only given radishes. And of course, these students had to exercise a lot of self-control not to eat the cookies, especially as the researchers left the lab and observed the participants. So after successfully torturing them, the researchers brought in these sets of students and gave them an impossible puzzle to solve. The results were quite fascinating. The group who were allowed to eat the cookies, along with a control group of hungry students who weren't given any cookies, went on to work on the puzzle for 20 minutes. While the group who'd been assigned to eat the radishes and had already exercised their willpower earlier went on to work on the puzzles for only 8 minutes. These sorts of experiments have been replicated over and over again. Turns out, if you walk into a mall and give people simple math problems to solve, the ones who've been shopping for much longer will give up on the problem much faster. So you might be sitting there thinking, okay, cool, experiments are fascinating, or maybe you're bored out of your mind, but understanding the implications of these experiments make you a lot more productive and completely change how you plan out your day, just like it did. So, what are the implications? Well, one, you have to understand that you have a finite amount of willpower and it gets depleted as you use it. And two, use the same stock of willpower for all tasks. A lot of people say things like, well, I have enough willpower to do my work, but I never have enough willpower for exercising when I come home. Well, it's not that you have a different stock of willpower for work and exercising. It's more likely that you've completely depleted your willpower at work and now you don't have enough to go exercise. It's the same thing if we look back at the sock experiment. Go to the laundry room for 2 hours and do your laundry, it's a lot harder for you to now get working on your assignment as opposed to a student who went straight to the homework. It's the same thing if you wake up on a Saturday and instead of doing your creative work first, go grocery shopping. You have to make a decision for every little thing you buy. You're probably familiar with the exhaustion that comes from shopping for a long time. Another person will wake up and start doing the creative work first, going to get a lot more accomplished. So it's extremely important to understand how willpower works. The people who understand this are much more effective in life than the ones who don't.
So it's really fascinating where they bring the three groups of people. Group number one, and they give them cookies and radishes. Group number two, cookies and radishes. Group number three, nothing, nothing to eat. And then they tell the first group, hey, you can eat the cookies. They tell the second group, eat whatever you want, but you should be eating the radishes because they're healthy. And then group number three, they don't eat anything. And then afterwards, after everybody made their choice, the first two groups, they basically give them an impossible task, a mathematical puzzle that has no solution, i.e. you could spend 6 hours trying to solve it, it will not be solved. And the people who had, the middle group, who said, radish cookie, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? I'll eat the radish, actually performed the worst out of all three groups because their willpower went down. Recognizing that your willpower is being depleted throughout the day is super smart because you could structure your day so the things that are harder for you to do naturally should be done when you have a big stock of willpower. And that's why Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I think that's why he said that in the morning time is a blessed time for my ummah. And those who can use it will get a lot of things done if they use it effectively. Tayyib, I'm going to talk about the marshmallow test. This is actually another test that was done, I think in the 50s or 60s, where they simply, 70s, sorry, I said 60s, it's 1972 in Stanford, and it was done with preschool kids, so kids that are like my Lean's age, 5, 6, 7, and they basically wanted to see immediate versus delayed gratifications. And these results that you'll see in the next slide were replicated many, many times. So the first test was done in the 70s, and then they were able to replicate it. Why is replication important for those scientists in the room? If Hassan was here, he'd tell me, but Sarah may be representing him and can do that. It's because if you run an experiment and you get a result, but you can't replicate those results, they're not very important. But if you do an experiment and those results are repeatable even in different scenarios, then they hint towards the pattern of how human beings work. So basically what that test is, they brought little kids and they said, we're going to measure their willpower. How do you do that for a child? You can't answer a question. They said, we're going to put them in front of a marshmallow. We're going to have a plate with a marshmallow and tell them something before we leave. We're going to say, listen, here's a marshmallow. You can have it. You want to have it? Go right away. I'm leaving the room. Eat it. No problem. Or if you wait 10 or 20 minutes, when I come back and you didn't eat it, I'll give you 2. That's basically the test. So you can think that, what do kids want to do? What do adults want to do? We want to eat marshmallows. Unless you're Muslim and then you're thinking, it probably has gelatin, I'm not going to eat it. But let's say it's a halal marshmallow, you're probably wanting to eat it. Now you're going to have to fight that temptation and exert a lot of willpower not to eat it. So let's see what happened. This is not the 1972 test. This is a test that was done very recently, but it gives you an indication of what little children do. And we all do the exact same thing, but we're not fighting marshmallows. We're fighting praying Fajr on time, perhaps. But it's exactly the same test because the human spirit operates in exactly the same way. So Ali will play the video for us.
Marshmallow, either wait, I'll give you another one if you wait, or when I come back, I'll give you another. So then I'll stay in here, stay in the chair till I come back, okay?
This is torture, haram. This is where it's breaking down, you can tell. Oh, there she goes. She takes a small bite. I love this kid. There you go. Gave up. Gave up. And give up. No. I love this kid. She doesn't even wait. She's like, that's true.
You get it? You did it? You want it? Yeah. But I think it's
So psychologists are amazing. They come up with these tests all the time. So what you can tell, obviously, that kid had a lot of willpower because all his peers kind of resisted the temptation, and some people tried, and some people went in at it a little bit. I'm just going to smell it, and that smell, and guess what? It forced them to say, oh, I'm just going to take a small bite, and so on and so forth. And subhanAllah, how human beings operate exactly the same way. You and I operate this way, but to other things, unfortunately. So that's how willpower is measured if you're a child. And what does it mean? So what? Okay, that we all love that video. But basically, they looked at them day 1, and then they said a decade later, that kid, let's measure him, let's follow him along and see what happened a decade later. Why? Because they wanted to see their SAT scores. SAT scores in the US are basically their IQ and tests and so on and so forth, their aptitude. And they realized that those people who exercised more willpower in preschool tended to have a higher SAT score in the future. And then they said, okay, let's look at them in a later decade and measure their BMI, their body mass index, to see how healthy they are as one measurement. And lo and behold, those who resisted the marshmallow day one tended to have better BMI in the future. And basically, it's better life outcomes. Those who are able to control themselves had better outcomes in the future. This is another interesting test. They put people in an fMRI machine. It's a functional MRI machine. And we'll ask Dina to tell us what that stands for, but no, we won't. It's basically a device that measures what's going on in your brain. And basically gives you pictures like these. And they'd sit and they'd ask the person, think about yourself. They say, okay, think about you and your situation right now, and a certain part of the brain would light up. Okay, so they measure that, perfect. Then they ask the individuals to think about a stranger, somebody they don't know, and actually think about them and visualize them. And a different part of their brain showed up. That's cool. Then they asked them an interesting question. They said, think about yourself in the future. So Khalid Sultan, when he's 65 years old, think about Khalid Sultan. How does he look like? How does he behave? Where does he live? How's his kids in the future? And then they noticed that some people, when they thought about their future self, the stranger part lit up, and the future self, it was the same part of their brain. And others, when they thought about their future self, it was the same part as themselves. So when they thought about themselves or in the future, the same part of the brain lit up. And then they realized, then they measured them in terms of their willpower, and they realized that the people who had the connection between their future self and their current self tended to have better willpower. Because basically what you're saying is, I know, wallahu alam, we all could die tomorrow. I could die tomorrow. I could die right now when I'm giving this lecture. But we think we're going to get to a certain age. We think there is a 65-year-old version of myself. If I feel that version is just some abstract, unrelated to me type of individual, I'm unlikely to act nice to them because they're a stranger to me. But if I actually see that person of me as me and solidify the connection and see that what I do today will impact them in the future, and I want to be nice to them in the future, I'm more likely to act correctly today. So when it's time to go for a swim, and I don't feel like swimming, but I know this is very good to maintain good, healthy hygiene, I'm going to go do it anyway because I have a strong why. So the idea here is to strengthen the connection, be nice to your future self, and try to picture yourself in the future and do things that will make their life easy. By the way, I work in finance, and that's the entire message that I have to people. I'm in financial planning, and I really tell them, it's up to you whether you want to save or not. Because some people say, I don't want to die rich and be poor now. I'm like, do whatever you want. Just understand that there's a future you. And that future you financially could be very strong or very weak in its positioning. And what you do today, that dollar that you could either consume today and buy your latte or put it in the future, will determine how the future you, how happy they are. So it's up to you and you guys decide. We're going to break up and do a group exercise. I'm asking you a question that I have not answered yet. I want you guys to answer it for me. Do you think it's possible to boost one's willpower, or do some people have more willpower than others? We're going to break up and we're going to spend a short period of time because I have 8 tools I'd like to share with you before we end. But I do want you guys to think about this question. Do you think there's a way to boost your willpower? We basically said your willpower depletes over time. Is there a way to increase willpower, to stop that depletion? Or do you think certain people have a lot more willpower than others? Sheikh Adnan has a lot of willpower and he can study and read and do the things that he's been telling us to do. But who am I to do that? I'm just not endowed with that much willpower. Is it A or B? Now, if you say yes, you can boost willpower. If that's your opinion or your group's opinion, I want you to answer, what can people do to increase the amount of willpower they have? If you think yes, you can, what is it that you need to do to increase it? If you say no, you can't, how can you make your willpower last until the end of the day? Because you know you're going to need it at the end of the day. That's when it's most depleted. So how do you slow down that depletion? So question number one is, can you boost it? Yes. What do you need to do to boost it? If the answer is no, how do you slow down that decline, that depletion of willpower? Any questions? I'm going to get Ali to help me. We're going to break in groups very quickly. We're going to only spend 5 minutes on this discussion, inshallah, and then you guys are going to tell me what you came up with. So if the sisters want to organically create groups, like 3 or 4 or 5 groups, that would be awesome. And the brothers need to create like 4 groups here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Assalamu alaikum. Yes, there is. Oh, water fountain. Yes, it's outside. I thought you said Wi-Fi. We do have both, Wi-Fi and water fountains.
Marshmallow test. So the metaphor of marshmallow test are well-to-do families who have a lot of blessings in their lives.
It's ASMR.
Marshmallow, even if they eat the marshmallow. But for
But no one
Okay, let's bring it back. Let's bring it back. Assalamu alaikum. I did tell you only have 5 minutes. So we're going to start with Sarah's group in the back. Sorry, we're going to put you on the spot. And then with Hamdi. Go ahead. Tell us your name and what you answered.
Okay, my name is Miriam, and we answered yes. We think that you can boost someone's willpower by certain methods or certain things that you do. So you can increase the amount of willpower you have by wait, I'm blanking. By motivating yourself with people, like encouragement, like surrounding yourself with people that have the same like goals as you and the same I'm blanking. The same goals as you, as the same aspirations. We also said that a routine, like setting a routine for yourself, is one way, because as you said, Ramadan, for example, is something that you don't need willpower for, you just do it. So if you have a set routine, you don't need to waste as much willpower doing your routine, like waking up for Fajr. You don't have to, if that is a specific routine that you set for a long time, you don't have to use willpower for that, and you can save that willpower for certain things during the day that you actually need for. Yeah.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Can we give her a clap, please? Because, like you said, I can tell you're in Sarah's group. That's not fair because you have an unfair advantage. But that was very well said, because basically what you said is put yourself in an environment where you're not using willpower, and that willpower is used for something else. And this concept is about putting your life on autopilot. So after Salah, after I pray Salat al-Dhuhr, for example, or Salat al-Maghrib, I don't need to debate with myself, is today or tonight the night I pray Sunnah or I don't pray Sunnah? That discussion doesn't even happen. Why? Because I prayed Maghrib, I get up and pray 2 more rak'at of Sunnah, period. I've made it in my life that Sunnah became like Fard, hence it's non-negotiable. It's part of my protocol. Basically, it's what I do. It's my protocol. Many of us don't have a protocol to begin with. They don't know what needs to be done, and they feel that, it's too restrictive. If I have a protocol of do A and B and C, where's the fun in that? Where's the freedom in that? But actually, freedom is not of the self, it's freedom from the self. That's what we're trying to teach ourselves. When Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam lived his life, he had freedom from his own self, in the sense that his life was just a manifestation of what it means to be connected to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala all the time. So he built his life to do that. And hence, willpower doesn't need to be used. it will need to be used because life is not predictable. But for the things that are predictable, it runs on autopilot. Very well said, Hamdi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salam.
So as a group, we discussed something similar to what the other group said, but we have a little different take.
So you think it can be boosted or no?
So we do think it can be boosted.
Okay.
And we also believe that other people do have higher willpower than others. And a way to increase your own willpower would be to surround yourself with people who have high willpower as well, and who will motivate you to be better. And we also argued that if it's possible that you're not surrounded, there's no environment where there are people with high willpower. So instead, maybe surrounding yourself with people who have high achievements, that will motivate you to be like them or be better.
Very, very well said. Just like similar to the first group. Excellent. Who also said willpower? The groups that didn't speak, who said willpower can be boosted? Put your hand up. Wow. Who said it can't be boosted? Nobody. Wow, I'm impressed. Okay, so maybe we'll listen to one more group from the sisters, and since we're all saying it can be boosted, and then we'll talk about ways by which it can be boosted. So sisters, go ahead.
So, am I talking? Okay. So basically,
I can't tell who's speaking.
I'm here.
Oh, sorry.
Assalamu alaikum.
I'm pointing here and you're speaking. Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey,
So,
inshallah.
us as a group, we've come to the conclusion that willpower aligns with motivation, discipline, and like your life, like your circumstances, because that does affect your level of willpower. And that's why I believe that people do have different willpower than others, like different levels, and it is finite. Then it comes to the fact that yes, you can boost it if you want to. How you do that is basically figuring out like your own self and not comparing yourself to others. Figuring out the times of the day where you feel like you have the most motivation, willpower, and such. So some people like are night owls. They work better at night. They have more willpower at that time. It's not everybody's a morning person. It's just stuff like that that does affect your willpower. And yeah, so okay, so yeah, so if you want it to last all day, that's basically it. Yeah, so
Okay.
that's what we've talked about, and that's it.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. I'm going to push back on you as well as that group as I push back of saying, you just tell yourself to do it. Yes, that's exactly willpower. That doesn't boost it. That actually depletes it. When you say, I'm just going to do it anyway, that means you've just used a bit of willpower. And it doesn't mean it's not going to work for you. It's going to work for you. But the question is, how many other things you're going to have to do that for? And if there's a whole bunch of inputs and a whole bunch of tests that you're having to use willpower for, eventually you won't have enough.
Yeah, I also forgot a point. Basically, also to like keep your willpower at a higher level, like last longer. Also having like not only like long-term goals, but setting those little short-term goals where you like reflect on like maybe just be proud of yourself for like doing those little baby steps and being like, yes, I did have willpower in this circumstance and I did this. Not only like just the big goals that take so long to like, it takes so long for you to see them actually come into fruition. So you're like, oh, then even if I have willpower, I'm not seeing results.
Yep.
So yeah, that's
Beautiful.
it.
Beautiful. Jazakumullah khair. Tayyib. Yes, I think we have a question. Amira. Dip. Yes. Yes. That's exactly what I wanted you guys to say, is these tools of what taking a shower can increase your willpower? Yes. Meditating? Yes. Taking a nap? Yes. Breathing? Yes. These are the tools we're talking about. And that's what I'm hoping you guys would come up with. But it's okay, we're going to talk about them together, because those are practical tools that you can walk away and say, I can actually try this tomorrow. Tomorrow, I may say, I just do it anyway, or I can go and make wudu. What? Wudu will give me more willpower? Potentially. So the first thing to tell yourself is that boosting willpower is possible, and it really starts with your attitude. Your attitude, can I actually increase my willpower? The answer is yes if you want to. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us the way you think and your expectations determines reality. What? What are you talking about? This is just nonsense. That's what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us. Your perception dictates your reality. Your perception dictates reality, meaning that if I think something, it's more likely to actually come true. Hold on, this is nonsense. Yes, it is. Actually, it's from the Quran where Allah, or Hadith Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, أَنَا عِنْدَ ظَنِّ عَبْدِي بِي. I am exactly where Allah, my servant, expects me to be. I'm there where he expects me to be. If I expect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be all just and to punish me for every mistake that I've ever made and I committed and I deserve it, he will be like that for me, because that's my expectation of him. If I expect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will look at me with an eye of compassion because I'm doing my best and I fail and I get up and dust myself and try again and fail and get up and dust myself and try again, he will be like that for me. So your attitude matters. And I love this slide because it tells you buy your willpower at the store. Try to use your willpower offensively, not defensively. So we're using the example of food, again, not to put anybody on any spot. This is me talking about my own situation. I have a sweet tooth. Yes, I've cut out sugar. I still have a sweet tooth. So if you put a chocolate in front of me, if my wife buys chocolate at home, me, Khalid, will be tempted to want to eat it. So I'm going to sit there and fight and fight and fight, and I know it's in the cupboard, versus simply not buying it. Asking my family never to buy the chocolate that I'm in love with. That way, if I wanted to get chocolate, what am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to get in the car, drive to Walmart, pick it up and come back, and there's an hour gone of my life. I'm probably unlikely to do that. But if it's in the cupboard, I'll go and reach for it. If I don't want to use my phone, another thing that I'm addicted to, I'm not going to put it right there in the center of the room, in the living room, staring at me, talking to me, telling me, please pick me up. It does talk to me. It's weird. But that's what happens. If I don't want that, I take it and I lock it in the garage underneath my snow tires, and it's very hard for me to pick it up. So it's up to you. What do you want to do? Buy your willpower at the store is all about using your willpower offensively. So let's talk about tools that you guys can walk away with. We've got 10 minutes, so I don't know how much I'm going to be able to convey. Starts with a deep why. If you want to do something or not do something, understand that having a strong, deep why will come in super handy. Versus doing things because I should. I should memorize the Quran. I should go to school. I should do X, Y, and Z. You don't believe it. Come on, stop kidding yourself. You're not doing it because you want to do it. It's because your parents wanted you to do it. It's because society wants you to do it. It's because what the expectations are of you. That's a very weak why. And when the time comes, you're not going to be able to resist that temptation. It's too tiring to pray Fajr. I should pray Fajr. Yes, of course you should pray Fajr. But it's not to make Sheikh Adnan happy. It's not. Versus, I want to pray Fajr because that's when I taste the sweetness of Iman, when I'm connected to the source of happiness and peace and love. That's a very different orientation. And the more we can think about being in the latter orientation, the more Fajr becomes not a struggle anymore. It's actually a struggle not to get up for Fajr. You can't pay somebody not to get up for Fajr. Some people are like that. You can't pay them enough to not pray Fajr. It's the opposite. Who taught us that? Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, I swear that praying 2 rak'at of sunnah of Fajr, he didn't say Fajr, the sunnah of Fajr, to pray that 2 rak'at is more beloved to him than every single thing on earth put together. Just to put it in perspective, I know we hear the hadith and move on. Do you understand what that means? Like, Let's take just vehicles. 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 How many vehicles are in the parking lot outside? 50? Imagine all 50, somebody comes to you and says, that's yours, Humaira. 50 cars. Like, whoa, 50 cars? I don't need 50 cars. I'm going to sell 49 of them and make a lot of money. That's in TMC building. Imagine you had the cars in all of London, Ontario. Every single car in London, Ontario is yours. Does that make you feel good? Like you're wealthy? What about every car in Canada? What about every car in the world? I know intellectually you stop kind of making sense of that. Now, that's just vehicles. What about homes and property and land and buildings and businesses? All of that yours. Just miss 2 rak'at al-fajr. Not even the fard. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, says, no, you can't pay me to do that. Because there's a level of sweetness that I feel that I don't get from donkeys and cars and gold things and nuggets. Doesn't give me that pleasure. It's because he had a deep why. Can you have a deep why? Can you establish a deep why? Let's play the next video. And I think this will tell you what the why could be. Could be.
Call every woman and man, right until the end of time. This is Al-Islam, always moving through the land. Allah surely run to us, but do we understand? All words of hope, a call to every woman and man, right until the end of time. This is Al-Islam, always moving through the land. Allah surely run to us, but do we understand? Call to every woman and man, right until the end of time. Always moving through the land. Allah surely knows, but do we understand? Call to every woman and man, right until the end of time. Is this just a waste of time? What if we run out of time? Is this our time?
So, subhanAllah, what's the point behind this video? The point behind this video, and this was made about 10, 15 years ago, and it's so sad that more than a decade later, the top hotspots for pain and agony and misery in the world are Muslim countries. It's sad. Whether it's Yemen or Syria or Libya or Egypt or Lebanon or Kashmir, it's just all of these are Muslim countries. And there are a lot of people in a lot of pain that we sometimes can't even intellectually understand. Could this be a deep why? A deep why for what? For me going out and doing my run? Yeah, it could be. Absolutely, it could be. You giving up smoking? Absolutely, it could be. You sitting down and memorizing the Quran that you needed to memorize or finish the homework that you needed to finish? It could be. Because we recognize that this is going to continue. This is not going to stop. This will not stop until you and I get our act together, because we're responsible for this. And at some level, we're going to be asked, what did you do? Ya Rab, Palestine, what can I do? I can't do anything. Correct. You may say, I can't do anything. But you know what you could do? You could pray Fajr. You could at least say, Ya Rab, I could pray Fajr, and I did. I could have come to the masjid. It's tough, it's cold, it's early, but I did. And had I had more tools at my disposal, maybe I would have done something about Al-Aqsa or the trouble happening in Yemen and so on and so forth. The next thing is, and the last thing we're going to talk about, the second tool in the 8 tools that I wanted to share is your fundamentals. Your fundamentals is rarely talked about. We're going to give you a headache with the amount of times we're going to mention it. Because you cannot change the world, you cannot change anything if you're unable to control what you yourself do. You know what I put in my mouth? How much I move in a day, when I choose to go to sleep, nobody controls that except me. So if I'm up at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock and 3 o'clock at night, I can't simply blame anybody else, blame the situation, blame the man, blame that other country that happens to be controlling everything. I can really blame myself. You're more likely to take very bad decisions after a really poor night of sleep. You know that. You don't need me to tell you that. You know the nights that you stayed up very late and you woke up very early. How were the decisions that you made that day? The quality of those decisions. Were they amazing and rocking? Or were they just, I'm embarrassed, I just hope that day ends? Likewise, if you're nourished and well nourished, and your blood level is not just spiking up and down, you're more likely to take better decisions. If you're sitting there sedentary, not moving all day, you're on that desk, working away or studying or no matter what you do and you're not oscillating, you're unlikely to take the best decisions as your willpower depletes. So we'll end with this idea that, which Muhammad, by the way, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, told us this long time ago. He goes, for example, when you're angry and you're upset and your willpower is completely gone. Why? Because when you're angry, you're going to do something you're going to regret or say something that you're not going to feel proud of. What did he say? If you're standing, sit down. If you're sit down, lie down. Change your atmosphere. Take a pause. Take a breather. Step away. And what you do physically matters. So ask yourself, are you happy with the level that you're at physically in terms of your fundamentals? You're eating, you're moving, and you're sleeping. If you're not, that's beautiful. It's not a shameful thing. It's a beautiful thing. Why? Because look at what you can improve. You know you've got things that you could improve. And if you're happy with your life right now, how about if you sharpen those three aspects even more? How far can you go? So that's the second tool that we talked about. The first one is having a deep why. The second one's your fundamentals, eating, moving, and sleeping. And then we've got 6 more to cover. We'll try to zip through them next week, inshallah. Jazakumullahu khair. We hope this was helpful, and we'll stop for salah now.